Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
You feeling welcome tonight? You're starting to feel cozy? It's so good to be with you all tonight as we dive into a new series. Your soul is welcome, all of you is welcome, every aspect of you. Of course, however, we invite into the conversation tonight that which is beyond the thoughts that you have about yourself. So how do you get beyond those thoughts? Well, we're beginning a 3-part series tonight on a Unity classic book by Imelda Shanklin. She is one of the earliest Unity leaders, a Unity minister. She worked at Silent Unity, and then she was the editor for We Wisdom, which was the longest published spiritual children's magazine. And she wrote this book, What Are You?, in 1929. It was first printed, and it still rings relevant to us today. She asks us this question: what are you? What are you? So usually, how do we answer that question? Well, I'd be happy to tell you what I am. No, the speed dating style, right? I'm a Unity minister, and I live over, and I notice a lot of people in Houston want to know exactly what part of town you live in. That's one of the first questions. And I live outside the loop, southeast Houston, and I have a daughter, I'm married, all this kind of information, your degrees, your hobbies, nationality even. So answering this question, what are you, in this way is actually answering the wrong question. That's answering the question, who are you? Right? So that information is what perhaps you believe about yourself. And if it is all that you believe about yourself, then there is an error in your thinking. Imelda tells us this. There's an error in your thinking, because that's just partial. It's not that it's not true, it's partial, right? We can identify so much with the who that we are that we forget the what of us. Anybody ever forget the what of us? Am I alone here? Because I know I do, and I need reminders, which is why I'm here in Unity. I need the reminders. I forget. I get caught up in the personal day-to-day interactions of life where I need the spiritual practice and the reminder. She said the error is the source of every misunderstanding that perplexes you in life. So there you go. Everything that you're struggling with, the answer is that error in thinking, because you think that you're just that personality self. Jesus explores this in Matthew 16. There's this wonderful story where Jesus asks his disciples, but what do you say I am? He just puts it out there. You see, are you paying attention? Do you get it? And so one disciple says, well, some say that you're John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and there's still others who say Jeremiah or one of the prophets. Okay. So he says to them, but who do you say that I am? So they're like, oh, this is the gossip. These are the rumors going around. But who do you say I am? Like, really asking them to think about this. And Peter answered, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, blessed are you, for flesh and blood has not revealed that to you, but my Father in heaven. So in Unity, the way that we understand whenever Jesus says Father in heaven, he is referring to the Christ within. So he's saying to Peter that you didn't know this because you heard a rumor, gossip going around town. You knew this from the depths of your being. And that's the knowingness that I'm talking about. That's what he gets gets excited about, that you got it. You got it. So he praised Peter because he wasn't confused by the personal, not confused by the body, the situations, the stats, where Jesus was born and when the census was and who did that, and none of that stuff. He recognized the impersonal, the unseen, the spirit, which is our divinity, which is true of all of us. Jesus was not the exception, he was the example for all of us. So this personal, this who of you can be changed. Amen. Isn't that wonderful that we are changing and changeable? That's the great gift of this human experience. You have changed it many times. You know this, right? I don't have to prove this to you. And you will continue to change. There are changes in the body, right? We start out as a baby, we grow into an adult. The baby turns into an adult, a lawyer, a judge, a governor. The roles change, right? We change our situations in life. The title might change of the who that we are, but the what is never affected. Never affected. You may have noticed that, I know I've noticed, that there's an aspect of me that's like ageless, that just continues and doesn't seem changed by the situations of life. I love how Eric Butterworth said, I am as young as the morning and as old as God. You think he was talking about the who or the what of him? Mm-hmm. He knew it. And he was sharing that in that lighthearted way, right? So it was the divinity in Peter that had that insight. You are the Son of the living God. And don't get hung up on the son part. We're sons, we're daughters, we're expressions of the living God. Imelda Shanklin says it this way: once we know how to answer this question for ourselves, what are you? We will know ourselves well enough to trust ourselves, to be happy, and to be assured of our continued well-being. And what really is more essential in life than to be able to trust yourself, because we struggle so much with the questioning, the doubting. Should I do this? Shouldn't I have done this? Maybe I shouldn't have done that back then, and if I didn't do that back then, I wouldn't end up here now. All that kind of stuff clears up when we get that we are an eternal being, and we can be free to be happy. I love when Reverend Karen closed the series on Big Magic last week. She spoke about stubborn gladness. And I like that idea because it's a willingness to be glad in the midst of anything that's happening. It's not that you're bypassing, it's just you're choosing to find the good in life and live that way. And to be assured of our continued well-being. Continued well-being. So why? Why? Because the impersonal, changeless aspect of ourselves lies within us, and it is the ground of our being. And when we know the personal, the who, is changing and changeable, then we can raise our consciousness to express more of our Christ nature. So that's the why of why we want to answer this question of what are you and know our divinity, because it allows us to know that we can use that awareness to shift that who of us that is changing to a higher awareness and a greater and greater expression of our Christ nature. But why not just stick to the personal? I mean, everybody's doing it, right? Just stick to it. Well, we know it's partial, right? I already said that. It's partial, it's not real, and it's unsatisfying. There is something that we teach when we teach unity metaphysics, that there comes a point in your soul's unfoldment where the personality and the individuality start to have this dissonance. Like you start to know who you are, and then there's this uncomfortable energy there. Like, I can't keep being small. I can't stay in my smallness. There's more to me, and I want to discover what that is. And life becomes unsatisfying until we choose to go on what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey, to really discover all that we are. So we have this longing for authenticity, to return to the origin, to the truth of our being. And Shanklin says this: knowing the personal only, you have but superficial knowledge of yourself. Beneath the surface, the rich deeps of life summon you with overmastering appeal. Imagine that the depths of life, all the richness is summoning you with an overmastering appeal. Not knowing how to respond, you have a sense of confusion and restlessness. So that's what I was talking about, that dissonance, confusion, restlessness. Anybody felt that as you are on the path? When I was on my journey, my profession, I know I've shared before, was as an actor, and one of the things that I discovered was I played all different roles. I play the young girl who's in love, or the reporter who's all about business, or I played one of King Lear's daughters. To think of all the different kinds of roles that I played, and recognizing how I can shape my personality in a whole other way to appear different and to relate to people differently. And I've done it so many times that I've recognized that none of those were me. They were partially me. They were aspects of who I was that I added into the performance, my own real life and that kind of thing. They were unsatisfying ultimately to me. And so I was called to go on a quest, on a journey. And that journey led me to read a lot of different books, the Tao of Pooh, Feng Shui, whatever was out there spiritually I was dipping into. And then ultimately I tried some different churches, and I found unity, and I finally heard that message that there is more to you than your personality. And it's like, that's what I've been thinking, but somebody needed to tell me about it, that there is this light in me that I was trying to figure out. What is that, and what do I do with this energy? This is amazing. And I found so much peace once I came back home to this truth that was always resonant within me. So we can get distraught by the why and the how of life when we think we're just that the personal aspect, the personality, just the personal. By recognizing what Imelda Shanklin calls the impersonal being, which is the divinity of you, which is the fullness of you, like the wholeness of you. You learn that the what of you is indestructible, is absolutely timeless. We have this threefold nature, and so we're getting into some of these really important basic unity principles. It's always good to tap back into that and remind ourselves as we grow, because as we tap back into it, we tap back into it from a higher level, right, every time. So our threefold nature is spirit, mind, and body. And we tend to walk around thinking we're just mind and body, right? Mind and body, stuff we think about, right? She says, spiritually, you are a soul that has forgotten its divine identity, a soul now struggling to remember in the midst of time and in the confusion of experiences that you are the living Son of the living God. And she says, while you are a son or daughter of God, you haven't always acted the part. You haven't always acted the part. You might know it intellectually. And when you start taking unity classes, we start saying things like taking that 18-inch journey from the head into the heart. It's taking that knowledge and then bringing it into your hearts, and then it's how you're living, and it's the truth that you abide by. Spirit informs our minds, and the mind informs the body. And the thing about that is like, okay, well, I'm one with divine mind. We learn that in unity. And divine mind is unlimited divine ideas, and those ideas come into my consciousness, and my consciousness uses that to create my body, and that's the way that energy flows, that thought flows. However, the thing is that how that works is now you've got these beautiful whole divine ideas, and they come into your consciousness, and here's the stinking thinking in your consciousness that thinks you're only a personality and that you are stuck and everything's happening to you and oh, you're just a victim of everything. So it creates like just a little hole for that huge idea of who you are to come through into expression. So we've got unlimited possibilities, and our thinking can really limit them and refine and define them into a smaller expression of that, which is why you see that coming into your mind and then it comes into your body. There's also collective consciousness to consider here, which is part of all of our consciousness. Reverend Michael gave a wonderful sermon on Sunday where he talked about, or message, he doesn't call them sermons, he calls them messages, right? Where he talked about the 4 levels of consciousness: victim, victor, vessel, and verity. So I invite you, if you didn't get to listen to it, any of you there on Sunday, you got to hear Michael's message? If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it, because that's really good information as we're coming back to our foundational unity principles for living as the light, the spirit that we are. So it's just like we're somebody who has amnesia, isn't it? Like just walking around the earth thinking that this is it, that this is all that there is. But just like that person who has amnesia has to do work to recall their identity, right? It doesn't just happen. They start to piece together the situations and names and experiences of their life. It dawns on them and it starts to unfold, and then they come into a remembrance as they come back to who they are as a personal identity. We have to do our work to recall our spiritual identity. We pray, right? We read spiritual books, we meditate, we practice spiritual truth in our lives, and then as we do this, as we do the work, as we recall, then there's a flicker that becomes a beam and then a full light, so that we're just talking about that little space that we let that divine idea come into. It opens up more. So more of those divine ideas are coming into your consciousness, and you're starting to have a more expanded view of life, of other people and your connection with them, of possibilities, of kind of work that you can do that is satisfying to the depths of your being and can be of service to the world. This is how we know ourselves, through engaging in this practice of these spiritual practices, so that we can have that recall. Like that person with amnesia, we have spiritual amnesia, and we're coming back into that knowing, so we remember who we are and why we came. I want to share a story with you just now that's a little off the beaten path, but I had thought of it today because one of my favorite artists, musical artist, Bono, you know Bono from U2, he's got a new book out called Surrender, and it is about his life journey through the songs that he's written. And I started reading it, and it's so awesome, it's so powerful. And he just has, him and U2, they have such a meaningful place in my life and in my family. Actually the first Sunday talk that I gave in Unity was Unity and U2, the metaphysics of U2, and I gave a talk where I gave the metaphysical understanding of some U2 songs, and I've always found just a real deep spiritual resonance in most of their songs. Some of them are just about other things. But what I wanted to share was when I was 5 months pregnant, my husband and I went to a U2 concert, and there was a song that really resonated with me, and it was so touching. It was a song that Bono wrote about his mom, and it's called Iris, Hold Me Close. His mom's name was Iris. And we were thinking about what we were going to name my daughter. And because I'm a Unity minister in metaphysics, and I teach metaphysics, I know that words have meaning. And so I really wanted to give her names that have meaning. And I didn't get a middle name when I was born, so I gave her 2. Just to even out things, right? And so I gave her, one of her middle names is Iris, and it really came from this song. And in the song, one of the lyrics is, I'm trying to remember the exact words, but it's, the moment that we are born, we forget the very reason that we came. Forget that. And it's like, wow, there it is in a U2 song. This, what's in Imelda Shanklin's book from 1929. So we forget. So it's our work and our purpose in unity to remind ourselves so that we can be a light in the world and help others remember. And the more that we can do it for ourselves, we can support each other and keep that consciousness on the planet so we have more peace and more love and less violence and war and harm. So the way that we make conscious contact with the mind of God is through prayer. If you want to know about prayer, well, you can ask me or Shirley, but you can definitely ask Reverend Sheila. She wrote a book on prayer. Prayer is how we remold our minds. We can remold our understanding of ourselves through prayer, where we shift from the who to the what of who we are. Prayer is how we receive from God, and it's shifting from the personal to the impersonal, and it doesn't happen in an instant. You could have a awakening, right, in an instant, but that shift, changing, really remolding your mind takes time, and it takes practice to reverse the trend of living by personality alone that is so present in our world, not just in ourselves, but just is reflected back to us and others. So if you want to improve the condition of your lives, Imelda tells us to consider your motives. What are your motives for doing what you want to do? She says, if you want to improve the conditions, notice if your motive is in alignment with the golden rule. Everybody know the golden rule, right? If it's in alignment with the golden rule, it's safe to proceed. Go and do that. Be a blessing. But if it's not in alignment with the golden rule, if it will do harm to yourself and others, if it's unkind, if it's judgmental, if it's hurtful, she says, abandon it. Don't do that. So that's basically a really easy way to shift your thinking, to reverse that trend, and knowing, how do I listen to that still small voice? Or is that the voice of ego? I don't know. Ego can kind of mold and shape itself into different sounding things because it knows me really well.
Amen.
Right? Right?
Yes.
So we can check in with our hearts. Is that something that is benevolent and beneficial to others and to myself, to the situation? You're safe to proceed. She said it is the personal you that is suppressing the impersonal. So get rid of any thought that there's anything that's trying to hold down your true self. It's you. It's the ego. Okay? And so once you get that, that's all part of your consciousness. You recognize that you have some choice there. Right? You have choice there. So she says, try just freely giving all the good that you are out into the world. Give it to people without being suspicious of them. We let that get in the way of our love for each other, of questioning their motives and that kind of thing. Just give. And I heard a wonderful thing by Panache Desai. Anybody listen to his meditations? He has this call to calm in the morning. It's at 8 o'clock Central every weekday. And he said, we came to love other people, not to be loved, not to think, oh, well, when I'm loved, I'll give it back. That's not how it works. We think that we have to wait till people get us, they understand us, they know what we're about. It's not going to happen because we think that people who hate themselves, now let's be honest, people you know who don't like who they are going to all of a sudden get you and your spiritual path, right? It's not going to happen. And it really was one of those things that really rang a bell for me. I was waiting for that person to get me. They're not going to get me. Maybe they will. Hey, one day it could happen. But why am I waiting to shine my light and be the love and the peace and the joy that I am for them to come around? It's just kind of crazy. Right? So just freely giving all the good that you can give, and you will find that you will feel freedom and good in the very place that you felt bondage. That very situation that you thought was icky and gross and you never wanted to go there and be with those people again, that once you start giving rather than expecting to receive whatever you thought they were going to forgive you or whatever you thought they were going to do, and just give there, you will experience freedom. She promises us. So I want to close with some affirmations that she gives us for experiencing this freedom. So I invite you to repeat after me. I am an idea in the mind of God.
I am an idea in the mind of God.
I let God's idea express in me.
I let God's idea express in me.
I am the mind of God.
I am the mind of God.
I let the mind of God inform me of my identity.
I let the mind of God inform me of my identity.
My body is the substance of God,
My body is the substance of God,
manifesting in correspondence with God's idea.
manifesting in correspondence with God's idea.
You are mind, body, spirit, all one and all knowing what you are. Namaste.
As you were talking about this, it's reminded me of how, like, when you go to a new school or you go off to college, maybe you try on a different personality. When you get to a new school or in college, you decide, I'm just going to be a different person. But this is what this community allows us to do, right? To be a new being. Try on that new substance of yourself, of that wholeness, that fullness, that divine connection. So I'm just so grateful for spiritual community, for times like these, for all times. But yeah, that's what we can do for each other, right? Just support each other in trying on this new personality, or it's not a personality, but this new fullness of who we are. So thank you for that.
Yes. Yes, we have that practice. In classic unity, they would say, I behold the Christ in you. And that was what community was all about. And now we say, I behold the Christ you are, or I behold the Christ as you. So we continue to upgrade our language as we come into deeper awarenesses.
Yeah, I'm reminded of what I've heard us described as being stardust. We are stardust, because we are. When you were talking about the part of us that is ageless, and that is eternal, and that is unstainable. And I think then, whether it's from the realm of personality or spiritual practice, I think we have some control, some choice about where we identify. Your affirmations even made reference to that. I allow God's idea to, I identify with God's idea in me. And I think that it's a great gift of the human condition that God allows us to play hide and seek with our own consciousness. We live our lives, and while we're doing the things we're doing, we're driving, we're just navigating through our lives. That too is prayer. But there is a difference when we put our consciousness on our divinity, on the godliness the stardust of us. And that then affects personality. It affects circumstances. And it's part of the human condition that we're going to forget that. Just like you said, or the Bono song, with the moment we're born, we forgot why.
The reason we came.
The reason we came. Right. That's the consolation prize, is the knowing that we will forget. And then to remember, I think that's where spiritual community becomes so meaningful, is that there'll be something that reminds us.
Yeah. We must love growing. Why would we come and do this? I must really like to have opportunities to experience pain and pressure and then find the truth in that and have more painful experiences. Find the truth in that, forgive.
This is like some kind of adventure brochure. Like, it sounded really good in the brochure, and then you get here. Oh, what did I sign up for? This is a little too much adventure. But also, as we, as we come to know ourselves better, I guess that gives permission for other people to also see that light in themselves. I mean, it'd be great if we could just get other people to know this. It's really from within, the self-awareness that blooms, that blossoms from within. But, if we can just give permission to more and more people to find this, who we are and what we are, that's going to improve this world. It's going to make this world better. That's what I hope we're doing here at Unity of Houston. Also,
Definitely.
creating space for this recognition, this knowingness.
Yeah. Knowing that everybody's timing is just right, and how it's unfolding too. So we don't put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, well, if you're not Christ-like, then you didn't get it. Like, well, I'm working on it. I know it at the level of my being, and I'm in progress here.
Our job is to love each other. Our task is to love each other, and then that will. We have volition there. If we're waiting to be understood, waiting for people to get us, they may or may not do that. But I do have control over my interest in getting them. And even if I can't get them, I can hold space for them to be them, them to be fully who God is represented in that individual, and then just love that. Just whole acceptance. I accept you as you are and as you are not. And I also think that we need to turn that message to ourselves sometimes too. Because I liked what you were saying about my body is the substance of God. And I have a body, I have thoughts, I have feelings, and the part of me that can witness all of that is more godlike. And if I can identify with that more godlike and treat my body, therefore, with the respect of that godliness, then I make choices in accordance with that. And that's very human. That's the animal in me using my awareness of my connection to God to inform my actions and my behavior in this moment.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to think I don't know that I could add to that. Yes, you explained it so well, that we use affirmations of truth to bring the divine mind, absolute awareness to the human experience, because we wouldn't affirm, I'm a person with cancer. That's not an affirmation, right? That may be your relative experience, right? But in prayer, we bring the highest truth. And then, like you said, that knowing that the highest truth is I'm healthy, whole, and well, then the mind starts to be guided into, well, what would I do? If I was healthy, whole, and well, I would eat this kind of food. I would do this kind of activity. You open up to more ideas around that as you focus on that are relative ideas of action that you could take that will align yourself with that truth.
I dig it. I actually like even more though. I identify with the idea of God expressing through me. And then I might heal, I might not suffer if I die. You know, it's like, that's really not up to my body to decide, because that's the body's response to my attention on my God self. I will go one step further and then I'll shut up. I think that there are times when we foment, like we for whatever reason we're upset, and we notice that we're upset, or we're judgmental, or we're somehow, okay, oh my goodness, I'm being childish here. I'm being somehow less than my full self. Fill in the blank. It can be lots of possibilities, right? But the part of us that identifies with the eternal, the idea of God, that witness is still there. And if I can kind of bring my attention to that space, even in my fomenting, if then I notice I'm fomenting, then I'm indulging. I'm giving myself permission to be in that space. And I can't tell you that every time I've noticed that I'm doing that I immediately snap out of it, but I do it faster. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not masterful at it. I'm not Jesus. I'm not Gandhi, but I am a better person, a better version of myself, because now when I see it, it's like, okay, really? Are you going to hang out in that space, and how long? Enjoy it. You know, you don't have to buy a ticket for it, but you know, it's a show. So just enjoy the show and then get off of it as quickly as you can.
Yeah, it just gives that kind of a buffer of space between that experience and the what that you are that's witnessing it, so that you can recognize that this is impermanent and will change, and then you get a choice. Right?
Beautiful. Yes,
But you can have your pity party.
You
All have permission
It feels
to
good
do that,
sometimes,
right? Event that's a healthy thing.
Be a human doing human things.
If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.